And we're back in action at the Rugby Athletic Center in Salt Lake City with girls U18 elite action. I'm Liz Entwistle. Next to me is Matt, and apologies, give me your last name again.
Matt Wonderly, no worries.
Matt Wonderly,
it's
local
a tough one.
Utah product here. Played his college rugby at University of Utah. Fabulous program, but here we're going to talk about the girls. We have in white the Upright Rugby Rogues out of Canada, a mostly Ontario-based team, but they do draw from other parts of the country. This team is worth noting because there are 4 players on the field that have been selected to the U18 Canada side, so the Maple Leafs team that is traveling to France in October for the European Women's Championships. So this is a sevens tournament. We have many of the girls that would normally be at this tournament with teams like Atlantis and the Utah Lions and some of the other programs are also at the USA Rugby East Girls High School All-Americans this weekend, taking on a couple teams in Canada, but no conflicts for these Canadians. So a few players of note on this roster, and we'll get to them in just a minute as we talk a little bit about the action and play, because it's Rocky Mountain with the ball now off the penalty.
Looks like we're going to have to start spreading out the ball a little bit more, using the field to their advantage, getting a little bunched up and turning the ball over there. Upright with the great penetration, great ball movement. Be surprised if they don't score on this possession. About 5 meters out.
But now it's another penalty to Rocky Mountain. So this is Rocky Mountain in the green, a Colorado-based team. The Rocky Mountain Rebels also have their men's team here. Upright, similarly, multiple teams across multiple divisions. This Rocky Mountain Rebels side, 1 year in existence. Upright girls, about 1 year in existence in terms of playing too. So teams that are new to this rugby scene, but not new to the game of rugby. There's a lot of talent. This Upright team in white, many players with Canada experience. This Rocky Mountain team in green has multiple players that have been All-State for Colorado. We're fighting 100-degree temperatures, although not quite that hot yet this morning.
It's still early, give us some time. And a great try there off the scrum from Upright. We had a forward pass earlier from Upright, but I guess they must have stolen the scrum before that and then won this scrum, and due to great pressure, they were able to score. So great job, Upright.
Yep, so this Upright Rugby women's team just played last weekend in the Magnificent Sevens in Toronto. So, you know, close to home there. They won the tournament. They're coming off, you know, some good experience there. And they've got a couple players that are guesting for them as well, because they are short a couple players here with some camps and things going on in Canada. So there'll be a few players from Utah and California that are helping them out. This is a team that also played in Vegas Sevens, New York Sevens, and the Victoria Sevens. So they played in Victoria Sevens, the same tournament that this Utah Lions team went to as well. And both their boys and girls got to face off in the... So this is So after the kick, it's Upright, leading 5-0 over the Rocky Mountain Rebels. Rocky Mountain with possession off the kick, bouncing its way deep into their own end goal, right about the 22-meter line. Pressure must be coming from both sides, because we've seen a few penalties, a few forward passes, and we'll expect this game to settle in here as we're about 3-4 minutes into action.
Maybe we'll give them benefit of the doubt. I mean, it looks like they're getting bunched up still, not using the width of the field, but hopefully they'll start to calm down and settle those nerves a little bit and start using the width of the field and spreading the ball out, and using the ball actually as a weapon itself instead of their bodies. And that's the name of the game of sevens, right? We want to be able to spread the field, be patient with the ball, and try and find the space. And if you don't have the space, let's try and create that space.
Absolutely.
And don't ask me to kick.
You know, it's a great tool to have, but it's not needed here by Upright Rugby. or as well, they're more disjointed than
Well,
normal.
what I'm seeing is I'm seeing some great lines being run here off these set pieces, right? I mean, that's really where you're able to get most of the great lines run.
Team. They're coached by Mark Smearden. They're captain Taylor Hurd. This is a team that's, I mean, my apologies earlier, I misspoke. This is the third year of them having a women's side. I said first, so a little bit of credit to them for developing rugby longer. Their director of rugby, Tyler Liggett, is actually a Rugby Canada Talent ID officer, and so Upright is a partner of Rugby Canada, and they founded in 2007. Their team is an overall organization, has been competing for 4 years in tournaments all around the world, and this is a program that is really trying to grow the game of rugby in Canada. We'll see if we can get Tyler up here in the commentary booth a little bit later in the day to comment about how they're kind of processing with rugby up there. We do have some representatives from Rugby Canada and from Rugby Ontario here at the tournament just to look at the structure and look at the organization and see how they might be able to take the same thing back to their Magnificent Sevens tournaments and maybe add some additional youth rugby tournaments up there with the game of sevens.
It would be good to have them in the booth once in a while. Maybe you don't have to hear my ugly voice and hear maybe some Canadians.
I think you're doing just fine, but it might not be bad to get an accent and talk about the game of rugby. In the middle of the field. She actually refereed the girls' finals when they were playing in Vancouver Sevens. So they had a rugby festival up there similar to the Las Vegas Invitational, and it was Michelle, one of our USA referees based out of Seattle, Washington, who got to the ref in the middle in BC Place with all those fans while the men's were playing their World Rugby.
The ball skills early in the game, close to halftime. Actually, it is halftime. So yeah, great job with Upright keeping the pressure on it and taking advantage of these mistakes.
And we got a score of 19-0 favoring Upright Rugby Rogues at the half. They have been inside of Rocky Mountain's 22 the entire first half of play. So some good kicking on their kickoffs to pin Rocky Mountain back inside their own territory. Like you mentioned, applying the defensive pressure, scoring off the set piece. They'll settle down a little bit from when they had their earlier penalties. And so it's going to be up to Rocky Mountain here in the second half to get some good line breaks and going forward. This Rocky Mountain team, Coach Daryl Lane, their captain is Ivy Richards, Carson Hahn and Selena Tuilipa. Carson, of note, she was All-City Soccer and All-State twice. She comes from the Denver School of the Arts. And this team is brand new as of 2016. They debuted in the Vegas Open Division in 2016, so playing alongside the World Rugby Stop in Las Vegas. And they draw from the Northside Dragons, Summit High School, which is a well-known program when it comes to girls high school rugby here in the U.S., Chaparral, and the Westside Swarm. I know their coaching staff largely from the Westside Storm.
We'd like to give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, the Radisson Hotel in downtown Salt Lake City. Great place to stay. I've stayed there a few times, even though I live in Salt Lake.
I'm staying there this weekend. They've been fantastic.
You know, USA Rugby always stays there, I think.
Yeah, most of the tournaments there. I got to work out in their gym. I know these teams have taken advantage of the pool. Fantastic breakfast, but you know, again, great camaraderie with the teams with what they provided.
And also our other sponsor, Atavis. Am I pronouncing it right?
Atavis. It's a Latin word.
Is it a Latin word?
It is. They rebranded from Serevi Rugby last year, based in Seattle. But Atavis, it's honoring their ancestors and pushing forward, from what I recall, looking at the definition. But
Atavis.
Yes.
Atavis.
I didn't get to go down the ski jump, though.
Well, you know, they do this thing where you can sit in a tube and tube down the ski jump. They get it all wet and soaped up, and you can just rip down the ski jump. It's really fun.
But I think they were more focused on their play with some of these teams coming from so many different high schools. It was more about the practice, but I did hear some of these teams are going to be going to the Lagoon Water Park later today.
We'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll all join them with them. We'll go with them.
Exactly. Show them some warm Utah hospitality. It's Coach Daryl Lane, and then it looks like he did the work because now it's Rocky Mountain pressuring inside of upright 22, about 7 meters maybe from that goal line, trying to force it in.
Putting good pressure on.
And we'll see if they'll use what we call in
space. Great footwork.
Yep, we see them playing a little bit of 15s. Receiver to kind of swing the ball again, but it looks like Rocky Mountain strategy paid off. And off the penalty, so again off the set piece.
Exactly, great.
With a try, Maddie Lane, another one of their notable players here, daughter of Coach Daryl Lane. And she's been playing since age 7. She has been all-state every single year that she's been playing rugby here in Colorado. So a name to remember and a name to watch. Also, they're part of the West Side Swarm School, and one of their other captains, Jade Garcia, is going to be going to national champion Life University this fall.
Yeah, no kidding.
So they won
what
the CRC
program. And speaking of
and
Life,
the National Sevens
Dan
title.
Payne.
Yes.
Huh?
Dan Payne was the athletic director at Life University, USA Eagle many times over, playing in the flanker position most of the time.
Great player.
And Dan has said now that he's CEO of USA Rugby, and he said this when he's been involved in other coaching too, that he wants to make sure no other Dan Paynes make the team. Because Dan Payne is a hard worker, but the rugby skills now that are coming up means that no other Dan Payne should make it. We're going to find these fantastic athletes, and what a fantastic run here by Upright Rugby.
Speed.
Women's Rugby Super Series hosted in Utah at the Rugby Athletic Complex. Her sisters Katie and Sarah played here, flankers for Team Canada, one on the Maple Leafs and one on the senior side. And all 3 of them will be competing at McMaster. So they'll reunite in the fall, another one of those Canadian rugby. America at AIC, so it's American International College in Springfield, Massachusetts, and their team is one of the NCAA varsity programs. So reaching across the border and providing more opportunities, both within our varsity rugby programs here in the USA and the CIS programs up in Canada.
Liz, I got to be honest. I mean, you are incredible. You're an incredible wealth of knowledge. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and you guys can't see this back at home, but I've got a lot of note cards here. Spent my time out.
Not that many, but she's just brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. So great work on the research. I mean, I think you're just well known throughout the community. I am willing to listen. By the way, the last 2 kicks on those tries were wide, so that keeps the score at 24-5.
So we'll see here. Always a turnover opportunity, especially in the game of 7s, and this is the one point where there's a variance in the U19 laws. So we look U19 rugby compared to senior level rugby or college rugby. They do have some caps on the minutes that they're allowed to play in a weekend. They do have a few law variances when it comes to the scrum, and at lower levels too, sometimes with the lineouts. And I know that's different around the world. But here with the 7s, the only difference is that they can only drive 1.5 meters in the scrums, but usually in this game of 7s, it's a non-factor anyway.
Right, absolutely. But hey, Uprights maintain possession. They're still trying to find that space. Using it great, using the width of the field, and look at this speed. I mean, that's awesome.
I love that check to the weak side too. That number 3 from Upright Rugby, the beneficiary. It was the work done though in the middle of the field. So we have playmakers, we have speedsters, we have power runners. When we think of the way that 7. So these differences in points are going to matter because these girls are playing a big round robin. 7 teams in the women's elite. When it is all said and done, the number 1 and 2 ranked teams will play each other in the championship. So they could come out potentially with even, records when it comes to, multiple teams perhaps being, 6-0, 5-0. Well, one team would be 6-0. But you could have multiple 5-1 or 4-2 teams. So these point differentials are going to make a difference. We see this happen all the time when we're playing in the World Series. You saw Australia, who were just heartbroken several times playing Fiji, where Fiji would score in the final minutes and win the game by 2 points. And it'd be all Australia all game, and then the Fiji men scoring 40 seconds apart.
It can change on a dime. I mean, it's great to see Upright this game, though, play so so opportunistic rugby. It's fantastic. Penetrating the middle, finding space out wide.
And it says upright number 5, intercepting the ball in defense, so
Again,
a little bit of a
off
telegraph
mistakes.
pass, good field awareness. She's had a couple tries in this game.
Yeah, she's
After the
playing
game is
great.
done, we'll pull their coaches in and make sure that we get their rosters with numbers, because these upright players are surely
That would never happen in a 15s game.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get Mark Smirnin, their coach, in and talk a little bit about their players out here and get them identified with who they are. Rocky Mountain has had better go forward here in this game. We've seen a couple of nice runs. We saw them with that early try, so making the adjustments. A first-year team taking on an established Canadian side. So this is a great experience for these girls playing elite-level rugby and playing a little bit longer into the summer than they normally would.
Absolutely. And again, keen on the mistakes. Keying in on those mistakes from Rocky Mountain. I mean, they're playing great heads-up rugby.
Absolutely. And this Rocky Mountain team, unfortunately, a little bit short-handed this tournament. Both Gloria Wynn and Nina Falmasoli suffering injuries out for the weekend, so they're rostered with 10 rather than the full 12 were allowed for 7s. So these girls going to get a lot of quality minutes in. Taking that kickoff, good pressure from upright rugby, but it's Rocky Mountain maintaining possession. And we'll see that happen from time to time in the game in 7s, where passes on the ground, we're not going to be diving on them like we would in a 15s game, but maybe paying a little bit of extra patience. And here it was upright rugby a little bit impatient, trying to poach that ball. And it's going to be a penalty to Rocky Mountain. We see the tap from their number 7. That was Emma Shipton. A little bit of an opportunity to break up in the middle of the field, so I believe that she is one of their co-captains. I'm sorry, it's her sister Carson that is one of the captains. So Tessa and Carson, a lot of siblings out here on the weekend playing rugby together, a lot of rugby parents out here. So we're seeing this next generation come, I think, going to start booming like the game of soccer did. I know I grew up playing soccer in the 80s and 90s, I'm dating myself here. I was really fortunate growing up in Illinois with a big youth soccer development. And now it's my same hometown is doing the same with rugby. So our girls rugby team back in Palatine, Illinois, played in the high school state championship match. I was out there for that in Rockford, Illinois. The Palatine Pioneers boys growing middle school. And it seems to be happening all over the country, where we're now getting tag rugby, going into middle school, still playing co-ed rugby in middle school, and then going into their separate boys and girls